and welcome. My name is Evgeny Rusakov and you're watching TVP World Interview from Vilnius. On the 2nd of September, Vladimir Putin gave an official visit to Mongolia. This country is a member of the International Criminal Court, and formally it should have arrested the Russian president under the ICC warrant, but failed to do so. To discuss the aspects of this specific case, we are joined today by the Associate Professor at Yaroslav Mudryi National Law University and Vilnius University, Dr. Kateryna Latysh. Hello, Kateryna, and thank you for joining us today.
Hello.
So, well, first of all, what's your, as an expert of international law, take on Putin's visit to Mongolia?
I would say that, of course, we could say that it's a breach of the international law because Mongolia is a state party of the ICC, as you said, and in accordance to the Rome Statute, they are bounded to detain Mr. Putin and take him to the ICC.
So, could you clearly say that Mongolian authorities violated international law?
Yes, for sure. We could say that they breach this principle of cooperation, which they should be in compliance with.
Okay, principle of cooperation. Could you shed a bit more? What does it say?
In accordance to the Rome Statute, state parties, members of the ICC, they agreed that they would cooperate in these circumstances if, for example, the arrest warrant was issued. And as far as in the ICC, there is no any kind of police officers, it's impossible to enforce this arrest warrant. For that reason, if for example, this perpetrator will travel, they could fill the claim to the state party and ask to cooperate in these circumstances, in accordance again to the Rome Statute.
Okay, so you've mentioned this, well, ICC police, well, I don't know, what would that be? Brigade, let's call it that way. How much of a problem would that solve for ICC?
From my perspective, it will solve the main problem to ensure the enforcement of the decisions of the ICC, because again, for now, it's like the court, which was established by the state parties in accordance to this Rome Statute, which is a treaty. So it's not only on voluntary basis. Let's say it could be enforced. So for that reason, I see that if we have these police officers or any kind of law enforcement bodies who could do this job, it would be effective in these circumstances.
Okay, which ICC doesn't have, and that makes a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
And in some cases, not even a bit of a problem, but a bigger problem, right?
Yes, exactly. And actually, the same problem appears not only when we are talking about the ICC, but broadly when, for example, in domestic system, we have arrest warrant, and then this perpetrator travel, for example, to Greece, and then, for example, Lithuania could ask Greece to extradite this person in accordance to this arrest warrant. But in some cases, as we see from international practice, not in all cases these countries will do it, but they are obliged to do it, but they could find different formalities.
Reasons yes. Not to do so.
Yes, even, for example, pronunciation of the surname. And
really?
Yes.
Even such cases like surnames?
Yeah, so again, it's because it's law.
Okay, so let's continue then. Mongolian authorities, as we already spoke, had a duty to arrest Putin, but failed to do so. So what about sanctions on Mongolia then?
Unfortunately, there are no sanctions in these circumstances. Again, taking into account the source, the Rome Statute, there are no provision regarding these circumstances. But there is a room for to fill the claim to the Assembly or to the United Nations Security Council, and then state parties could consider consider this situation and take measures, seeing what they could do in this situation. Again, what kind of sanctions they could have. But again, we come back to the question that we don't have enforcement mechanisms to do
so
that.
is there any way is there any possible way how ICC could punish Mongolia in this specific case? Not really.
Not really punish, because again, as a lawyer, we couldn't say, me as a lawyer couldn't say like punish, but they could influence on Mongolia, because again, if taking into account the situation which appears several years ago in 2015, when the ICC had already had such kind of situations with the former Sudanese president Omar al-Bashir, when again he traveled a lot from different countries to country, and also there were these countries who are the members of the Rome Statute,
and still they didn't do anything.
Yes. So to answer your question, we could consider this case study and to see what happened in that situation. And actually, there was the assembly, and they took some measures, but it's more like political pressure and international pressure, and trying to motivate this country to comply with international law. And again, it's more non-enforceable measures, not like to expel, for example, from the ICC this country, or to isolate this country from international arena. In some way, yes, but not directly. Yeah, so basically there are no sanctions, but at the same time still there is some kind of room to find the way how to motivate this country.
Okay, so just a kind reminder, about a year ago Vladimir Putin didn't go to the BRICS summit that was held in South Africa and sent Sergei Lavrov instead. So what's the difference then between Mongolia and South Africa, and how much of geopolitics and political weight and will of a certain country is involved in such cases?
It's a very good question and very good comparison, because as I said in the previously, the South Africa didn't arrest this former president, Sudanese president. But then, in the example which you provide, it's also the sign that anyway, as far as there are no sanction mechanisms, but anyway, it influence on South Africa, and at least they give this the political will that they are not welcome Mr. Putin in South Africa. So it's the first thing. So basically, I think that international law could work in these circumstances, taking into account this case law. Not in a way how we would like to, but anyway, somehow it could work. The second reason, is the geopolitically, yes, because Mongolia is it
borders with Russia in the north and with China in the south.
Exactly, so, and very small population. It's
3
like
millions.
Yeah,
3 million.
So again, it's very complicated for them to be independent as a state and made the decision by themselves, because they are also dependent on Russian energy
oil
resources.
And gas. That's right.
Yes. So again, we could see that they had this. They need to balance between to be nice and yeah. So
they were literally stretching between the ICC and Russia's oil and gas. Do I get you right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Well, not good, but anyway. Then we come to another interesting, to my mind, thing is that Vladimir Putin has an international immunity. So how does this work together with an ICC warrant?
It's also a very good question. Again, taking into account the Rome Statute, we could see that in accordance, if I remember correctly, Article 27 of the Rome Statute, saying that it could not be the case, immunity, or if the person is the head of the state, the reason to avoid international accountability mechanisms. But again, taking into account case law and seeing in this case which we had in 2015, the South Africa told that they couldn't arrest this former president, Sudanese president, because of this immunity. And then, after consideration of the assembly, there was also the decision that it's not the case, I mean, immunity, to overcome this accountability gap. So again, and also if we see what Moldova said, officials from Moldova, they are telling only about this dependence.
Mongolia,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's all good. So when does then my next question is, when does this international immunity work? In which cases?
It works in universal jurisdiction in domestic law cases, but again, we should see in the documents which constitute the activities of this court, of the ICC, for example.
Okay.
Yes. So as I said previously, there is a case law, there is Article 27, which constitutes this kind of issues, and again, we had arrest warrants. So it's not like just hypothesis, yes, so he could be perpetrated. They issued arrest warrants. So again, they doesn't rely on this immunity.
Could we consider Mongolia's decision to invite Mr. Putin a victory for the Kremlin?
It's very complicated question, because on the one side we could say that Mongolia is a state party of the ICC, and they agreed to comply with the Rome Statute and all the requirements, and also they had, I think last year, the judge from Mongolia was elected as the judge of the ICC. So again, it show their active participation and recognition of international criminal law of ICC, and if then they give up that provisions, again, we could say that yes, it could be qualified as some kind of victory. But again, on the other hand, as we have already talked about, we had different circumstances when we don't know for which reason he came, and so on. So we don't know what's going on then, what kind of arguments Mongolia will use for the ICC, because anyway, they need to give some kind of explanations.
Okay then, what is the point of an international criminal court and its arrest warrants if certain individuals can openly spit on international law and its norms?
I think, again, it should be some kind of law enforcement mechanism. Most probably, it should be some kind of more effective mechanisms of international cooperation, and for sure, it should have some kind of more influence on the state party who breach the Rome Statute. So again, that the state party could see what kind of consequences they could have if they breach and give up these provisions.
So would that be everything? Because do you think that we talk a lot about this, but do you as a lawyer see any movements to somehow make it better?
Yes, there are a lot of negotiations from the different countries how to enhance it, to find the way. But for now, nobody could say what will be the most effective mechanism for it. Again, because it's a long round of negotiations between each country, and if someone will refuse it or say no, it's not good. Again, it's like long-term process. process. And it's crucial to have the consent of mostly of them.
Kateryna, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for shedding a bit more light on this complicated topic.
Thank you so much for raising such difficult questions.
Thank you. And I would like to remind our viewers that our guest for today was the Associate Professor at Yaroslav Mudryi National Law University and Vilnius University, Dr. Kateryna Latysh. You're watching TVP World. Stay with us.